Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
Well, hello again there, friends in podcast land, and welcome to episode 163 of There's Still Time, the AFTN podcast. Busy podcast ahead for you today. I'm Michael McCall, I'm flying solo today. It's a very interview-heavy podcast. We've been doing the rounds, chatting to a lot of people, and we want to bring you just a big bulk of those interviews in this episode of the podcast. We're going to be touching on the Whitecaps, MLS and USL level, and also the Canadian national team as they face a massive game against Honduras on Friday, and then hopefully a celebratory game against El Salvador here in Vancouver on Tuesday. But we're going to start with the Whitecaps. Tough time for the Whitecaps just now. 7 games of the regular season remaining. Sitting in 9th place in the West doesn't look good. But despite their form, where they're winless in 7 games, only 2 wins now in the last 14 matches, worryingly blanked in 5 of the last 6 games, and I think that's more key to anything right now, is can they get any goal scoring going. But despite all that, there is actually still a lot of hope. They're only 4 points out of the playoff places, and the 7 games remaining, as we said. The next 2 are against teams in the East. New York Red Bulls this coming Saturday, which Kyle Robinson said was the most important game of their season so far, and it's hard to disagree with that. They have to get the 3 points from that game. Without any shadow of a doubt, has to be a must-win game. Then they travel to Columbus the next week, who are starting to hit form a little bit worryingly, but we seem to do not too bad out there. But for me, out of the last 5 games, 4 of them are against the 3 teams that are directly above them and chasing down that 6th and final playoff spot in the West. 2 games against Seattle, 1 against Portland, 1 against San Jose. They're going to really make or break the season. David Ousted doesn't feel that we need to win all 7 of those matches, but for me, you probably don't. But as long as you can win those 4 against the teams directly above you, that's key. And then hopefully the Red Bulls win as well. I think we need 5 or 6 wins to get into the playoffs. And you don't just want to get into the playoffs, you actually want to do something when you get there. And it is all about hitting form at the last time. And frankly, if the Whitecaps get into the playoffs at this stage of the game, it means they've hit form. They're not going to do it otherwise. And then the confidence is going to be sky high, and they could be a team to watch in the playoffs. You just have to look at Portland last season to see what they did. We're 50-50. Actually, I'm probably less than 50% at the moment as to whether I think we're going to do it. But it's a realistic thing to have. And there's a lot of questions as to exactly what went wrong with the Whitecaps this year. Why haven't they been performing? What's been wrong with the designated players? Matias Laba and Pedro Morales have looked shadows of their former self. Octavio Rivero just wasn't cutting it this year. He's been punted. No replacement has come in. We've got other guys that haven't stepped up to the plate. Individual defensive mistakes galore. Doesn't matter who seems to be playing at the back, someone seems to make an error. Even the reliable David Ousted's been making a ton of mistakes. Letting goals in, carrying the ball over the line, letting goals into his body. Kendall Waston was a walking card machine at one point and was just having a horrible time. But he seems to have turned it around. David Edgar as well, after a bit of a tough start, seems to have come good in the last couple of weeks. And hopefully the team is just kind of finding their shape and just doing something at the right time. Maybe that's more wishful thinking, I don't know. But with everything that's happening, I had a chance to speak to Whitecaps President Bob Lenarduzzi last week, just about a number of those issues. Also touched on things to do with youth development and a lot more beside. Now, you might have read some of the chat that I had with a piece that I did on AFTN on the youth development side, and a piece that I did on MLS about the future direction of the club and Robbo's future as well. But there was a lot more than that we talked about than we could cover in those two interviews. So I want to bring you the full interview just now. It was meant to be a quick 5-minute chat. I actually ended it up as a 40-minute chat. So I'm going to bring you a bulk of it now. It's about 20-25 minutes. A lot of honesty from Bobby. It's going to be interesting to see what the fans think as to whether they feel he did address the things. We covered a lot of things as well, like fans wanting Robbo out, fans wanting Bobby out himself. So, without me waffling on anymore, let's just hear from the man himself, Whitecaps President Bobby Lenarduzzi. It's the first thing to ask, but we'll start on some positive news. Last night, it was a great performance from the team. They've put themselves in a great shape now for hopefully getting into the knockout stages. It's going to be hard to imagine that they won't now. But I guess I asked Robbo this last night, but the question now is, like, where was that team for most of the season?
Well, I think that you need to look at the actual season versus a Champions League match, and not to suggest the Champions League match isn't a priority, because obviously the opportunity to get to the final eight and have that be a part of your kickoff to next season would be very exciting and would provide a whole new opportunity for us as a club and for the fans. But obviously Kansas City, as did we, came in and rested some of the players that played this past weekend. So in spite of the fact that it was a good performance, I think it's difficult to compare the two competitions. Although I will say that what we did see last night, and I think the aired tackle at the end of the game, towards the end of the game, where I think he got called for offside. Most people, including me, thought he got called for a foul, which didn't appear to be. It was just a real good hard tackle. But you see how people react to that. You could hear the tackle right around the stadium, and it was a fair tackle, and so that's the kind of thing that I think we need to do on a regular basis, and it's always the very least you can do when you're playing a game. You can control the amount of urgency and intensity that you have. Sometimes you can't control the way you play, because it could be a day that your touch isn't as good as it should be, and it reflects in the way that you play. But I think what last night illustrated is what we need more of, which is that willingness to fight and battle for every ball, and that's something that we owe to our supporters. And there can be concerns about lost results, but there should never be concerns about the way you approach a game and the amount of effort that you put into it, which should always be 100%.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, looking at just what has happened this year and where the team's fallen down, I know it's a lot of individual errors, and it doesn't seem to matter who comes in. Players are still making these errors in league play anyway. From what you've watched and from what you've seen, is it hard to put your finger on just what has gone wrong so far?
Well, it isn't, because you've just expressed it. When you consider even the goal in Kansas City, we don't have a great first half, but when it got to about 30 minutes into the game, I thought it had settled down and we were starting to get some possession, and what we needed at that point to do was get to the changing room level, and they get a corner. A guy guy unmarked at the back post plays it back into the middle, and guy unmarked standing in front of David redirects it in. That's a bad goal to give up. It's a soft goal. And so, to your point, you can go back over the season, and you can, and there's 2 games that we played in a row that kind of, and I know that Jordan Harvey was quoted after the TFC game in saying that was a microcosm of our season, that performance and that result. And I thought we played very well that night. We were very workmanlike, got ourselves a goal up. We're well positioned to win another Voyageurs Cup. And then we let down at the most pivotal time. 3 days later, or 4 days later, we play Colorado, and perhaps are rather fortunate to be ahead in that game. But nevertheless, we're down to the final seconds. We concede another goal. Someone had said to me that there was one fan in particular, because our staff are in their Whitecaps gear, so they're easily identifiable. And someone had said to me that one of the fans coming out, older gentleman, was yelling at one of the guys in the suits, in the Whitecaps suits, saying, "Well, how can you do that? 2 games in a row. We're just gutted, giving up goals late in matches." And when I heard the story, I said, I feel the same way. Like, I can understand why people are reacting like that, because it's not the kind of thing that you should be have happening, especially when it was 2 games in a row. So I think it's just shutting off at pivotal times, and it really is more about the amount of goals that we've given up and how we've given them up that I think really differentiates us between this season and last season.
But when you look at the core of the team, like Kendall and Usted and Laba, they were all re-signed, and it was really positive. It's like everyone was like, great, they've re-signed. But I mean, you've been in football long enough that do people get a bit complacent then when they get an extension and think, okay, I've worked hard, I've got my extension, and are they? It's not that they're not trying as hard, because no one's not trying to do well. But when it's your key guys that's letting you down, is there maybe an element of complacency that's slipped in?
Well, obviously, what you're looking for from your core players is for consistent performances, and I'm not really wanting to. I mean, everybody can see what's going on, and I don't necessarily want to be highlighting any kind of subpar differences between this year and last year when you talk about those specific players. And I think more than that, it's really our squad that just hasn't been consistent. We just haven't had a level of consistency that has enabled us at pivotal times to actually provide some separation from the pack and give ourselves a little bit of breathing room if, in fact, we go through a 2 or 3 game losing streak. And in not doing so, we find ourselves in the situation we're in, which is every game from the 11th game or 12th game, now that it's 4 in a row that we've lost. They've all been cup finals, and so we've lost 4 cup finals up to now. We've got, and it doesn't even amount to we've got 8 to go. We've got the next game because we need to try and get points in the next game to keep our playoff aspirations alive.
I mean, that's the thing. Even though it's a bad run of form, you're still really close. You're only 2 points off that last playoff spot. But obviously, games are running out. Mm-hmm. The last 2 years, Robbo's had improvement upon improvement on each season. Do you feel that's maybe raised the fan expectations, that they're expecting that every year and they're expecting constant improvements? And there's some fans that they're calling for, like Robbo, to go. Do you not see it maybe that there's some short memories out there?
The thing I don't want to be doing is being critical of our fans. I can, though, say that since Carl has taken over and when he took over, the squad that we have now doesn't resemble the squad that he took over. And there's been a lot of change that's taken place. And the players that are being criticized now as not being good enough were good enough last year. And why there's been subpar performances, who knows? But what also happens in the sport is Carl was a first-year coach and was learning on the job, but was also continuing to evolve our club. And when I look back over our history, first year, absolute gong show, and we had we were an expansion club, and at the end of it all, we all learned a lot more from a very, very difficult season. And the next season, we make the playoffs. The season after that, we get more points, but we don't make the playoffs because the bar was higher. And then, of course, we have the last two seasons. So, to me, I actually see, and perhaps in some fans' minds, it's not quick enough growth, but there's been an evolution that's taken place. And as a result of that evolution, expectations have risen. And so when expectations are higher and you don't achieve those expectations and you fall short, people get emotional, people get mad, and that's what that's the business that we're in. And what we've got to try to do is I call it noise. And again, I'll go back to our fans. I said this prior to the Kansas City game, or prior to the San Jose game. I thought that the fans at the beginning of that game, that was loud, it was boisterous, and they were being fans. They were trying to lift the team up, in spite of the fact that we'd had a difficult run in the games that we played, the 3 games that we played previous to that, or 2 games, sorry, 3 including the Houston match. And so I was actually grateful that the fans weren't turning on the team at that point. And I thought that they kept that up even when we were down, and then towards the end of the match, obviously there's even more disappointment. But I appreciate that, and I know our players appreciate that. And the only way that we can respond in this stretch run that we have and provide some cause for optimism is to give 100% effort, regardless of how the team plays. And I think that for me is baseline in terms of the support we have. So back to Carl, it's been for the most part an upward trend, and he's disappointed, we're disappointed, but by no means are we going to do anything rash. We have full faith in him and his staff, and it's this year, and I always believe that you find out the most about people in times of adversity, and we're going through adversity right now. And but ideally, it's viewed as a learning experience, and we take the lessons that we've learned in adversity, and we from now we look at each game that's left, and we try to secure a playoff spot. And to your point, we're 2 points out. So if we happen to get on a run, that would be great. Current form to date suggests that's probably not going to happen, but sometimes it's a little spark that gets you going, and you can ride that momentum. So for this season, we all work our asses off, and then as soon as the season finishes, depending on what we've achieved, then we start looking towards next season, and ideally we take, again, the lessons learned from this season and start preparing for 2017.
Talking about the noise from the fans and stuff, there's more disgruntlement aimed at the front office. Like some folk with yourself as well, yep. They're looking for changes there. They feel that the club is cheap because they see these other teams going and spending all this money on like Javinkos and David Villas and like $7-8 million players, which I know you guys have said you won't do. It was interesting listening to you in Sports Market because you compared that folk mentioned Drogba as well, and like price-wise, he's like $2 million or something. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You got a little bit of heat as well because at the halftime of the last game you'd mentioned it doesn't need to be a name, it just needs to be a difference maker, which I agree with. It's like just because someone's a big name. And you saw it with Frank Lampard. He came here and he's maybe coming good now, but he had a horrible start.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I stand by that. I mean, and I didn't know that I got heat for it, but in the end, it's irrelevant. If a player turns up, regardless of what you pay for him, and he is a difference maker, which is what you need your DPs to be, then it's a good signing. So I would stand by that particular statement, and also stand by the money that we invest in player development. I think what people are looking to see on the player development side is instant results, and we've been at it, since pre-MLS. But what we've done as a club on the development side is there's no model in North America for how to develop players, because you have the scholarship opportunities, and MLS is relatively young. So when we came into the league, I think that was something that actually differentiated us from other clubs, because we would ask questions about development and, how could we assure that we were going to keep our players if, in fact, we invested the time into them. And as a result of that, there's way more talk about developing players, which is absolutely important, in my opinion, for every club in MLS, because if you can actually develop those players that are core players, and some of them are star players, then you also benefit your national team programs as well. And I had someone say to me, well, they don't care. They just want to see us win. They don't really care if we're developing players or not. And that's something that I don't necessarily agree with. I do believe that we do need to win, and we can't not win at the expense of development. But this year, I think we've been faced with a situation that we've regressed from where we were the last 2 years, but it's not as a result of investing in player development. So we're going to continue down that path, and I think that was the thrust of my comment on the Mayonek show was, look, we're not going to alter that. We think that if we continue to do it properly, that is something that will make up the bottom end of our roster. And clearly, you need to supplement or complement that with the DP difference makers, and then the quality players that fit in between the salaried players and the DPs, and the salaried players for that matter. I shouldn't differentiate, because you can spend up to $400,000 on a player that's in your cap. So those are the guys that you need to come through, and so we'll continue to go down that road, and again, ideally the difference makers are difference makers.
That's great. And the very last thing was just basically something that you touched on there. We're 6 seasons into MLS, and I know the residency's been going since 2008, but there's still not a regular first team player that's come through from the programme. What do you put that down to? And it must, with the money that's been put in, it must be a disappointment that there hasn't been a Canadian guy, a local guy, or wherever from Canada that's made significant leaps, that he's able to come in and play week after week in the first team.
Yeah. Well, I think some of it has to do with how we're structured, and I think that we've gone through that learning curve of not having a model to follow in North America, and now we've established ourselves as with the U14s, pre-residency, U14s, U16s, U18s, and I'm a big believer when it comes to youth that kids need to pay their dues and understand that there is a hierarchy there, and that they need to earn the respect of the players that they play with. And I think that we've more recently done a better job of making sure that players understand exactly where they are in the hierarchy. Next year, we'll provide an even better opportunity to do that, because residency will be out at UBC.
Yeah.
You'll have your changing rooms, and the old Arsenal model, when I went and visited their training ground, what struck me, outside of the fact that it's beautiful, it's state-of-the-art, these lush green grass pitches. The thing that stuck home for me the most was the explanation of the changing rooms and how the youngest players are the farthest away from the first team changing rooms. And in between there, you have your age-specific groups, and you don't go into the next changing room uninvited. You go into that changing room when you're being told, look, you know what, you've done well, and now you're going to get to the next level.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, it was, and so we actually out at UBC, that's how we've structured the building, so that it's a very simple logic, but I actually think that when you ask me why, I think that maybe players feel a little too entitled, and they've come from their clubs where they're the big fish, and just assume that it'll be the same, and it's not. So a player can have the ability, but what that player needs is to also have the mental makeup to understand, I haven't done anything yet, and I need to prove myself. So we've addressed those areas, and ideally we'll do a better job moving forward. But even now, you've got Sam Atakubi, getting his first team debut there, granted in cup matches, and ideally Cairns will have an opportunity to do likewise in Germany.
Yeah.
But there's a current player that we have that is also a good example of maybe realizing that they need a little bit more mental toughness, and it's Erik Hurtado. When Erik went to Norway last year, and in his eyes, it was okay. This is it. I'll go there and I'll do well, and then the rest is going to all be good. And he's telling this story, not me. I mean, he's been pretty public about it.
Yeah.
He went, and things didn't go as well as he had anticipated. And he has come back with a renewed enthusiasm, and we've seen glimpses of it. We saw it last night. His hold-up play is great. He'd be the first to tell you he needs to convert more of the chances that he gets. But he's a player that is a good example of actually realizing himself that, oh boy, I went away, didn't go well, I've come back, I need to work my ass off. I need to earn a place in this team. And if you can have that from a young age, then you've got a real good chance of, if the ability matches up, you've got a real good chance of achieving your dream of being a professional soccer player, and ideally a very good one. So a long-winded answer to your question, but really, in summary, we were still finding our way through the development process. We had Thomas in to begin with. That was one team, and I still think, even like a Russell Tybert last night, the ball through for the goal was as good a ball as you'll see anywhere, and weighted properly and in behind the defense. And so I think there's still an opportunity for him to entrench himself in the team, and then you get Brett Levi playing, and
yeah, he's great.
He was fantastic and wonderful attitude, and he though is a good example of being a good player, but also understanding the hierarchy.
Oh, totally, yeah.
He'll be the first to tell you, I'm in, but I haven't done anything yet.
So Bobby Lenarduzzi there talking to me last week after the KC Champions League game and before the LA game at the weekend. Be interested to know your thoughts about that. We've had a lot of comments made on our AFTN article and on the MLS piece I wrote with some of the stuff from that chat. There's a lot more covered though in the audio that you've just heard than what we put in those two pieces. And I have to say I agree fundamentally with a lot of what Bobby had to say there. There is an element that some players have maybe been brought up to the MLS roster too soon. It's gone to their head a little bit. It's given them false expectations or false belief in just how good their talent is right now. And that brings with it a sense of entitlement, which is never good for a young player to have in a club. Now, some people might listen to Bobby's comments about wanting the hierarchy and the kind of the old-fashioned system of players paying their dues. And does that mean young players going back to shining the boots of the older senior guys? Some folk may say that's dated, out of touch, but I say go for it, because that is something which does teach respect in a club. And I'm not saying that all the young players coming through have this kind of attitude, because far from it. If you speak to a number of the USL guys just now, I mean, you heard our interview in the last podcast with Brett Levis and with Spencer Ritchie. Two very humble guys, down to earth. They know the hard work ahead of them. Kyle Gregg's another one in the USL team that knows the hard work that's ahead of him. They get MLS contracts, which Brett now does. They know it's just the start of something. And that's what you want. Also the residency guys as well. They're more grounded. They're more down to earth. Alphonso Davies is another fantastic example of that. On Tuesday, Alphonso was at Whitecaps first team training at Swangard in the morning. Then in the afternoon, he asked Robbo if he could go and train with the residency. They were having an under-18 intra-squad game. He wanted to be part of that. He wanted to train with the guys, meet up with his friends, play in the game a little bit. He played half an hour. He asked to do that. He asked to get the extra training. And then when he was taking off, he was bringing the guys water. He was chasing balls down, going to get some bibs. Fantastic attitude from the guy. Very grounded, very down to earth. And it helps that the Whitecaps are protecting him and not letting all the media do stuff with him. As Carol says, let him be a 15-year-old, and that's what he's currently doing. But of course, the big elephant in the room, which we did discuss there, was why have no Whitecaps homegrown guys become first-team regulars? And Bobby talked about it, but I don't think we really got a definitive answer there. And it is disappointing that none have broken through. And for me, there's a lot of things you can point at it. Was their development not good enough? Were they given the right opportunities? Did their attitude get in the way? But ultimately, I don't think a lot of the guys have been good enough, and they need to hone those skills in the USL team to get themselves ready for MLS, to get themselves ready for first team minutes. It's not for the lack of opportunities afforded to them, because Carroll is really good at giving all his players a chance, whether it be in MLS minutes, which I know haven't come as much as some of the guys have wanted, but in CCL and Canadian Championship play, he has played those guys, and a lot of the time they've played like they've never seen each other before, and there's just been no team chemistry there. Doesn't help making mass changes, we've covered that many times before, but the guys have to seize their opportunity, and that is what the USL team is for. And a guy that also firmly believes in that is Pa Modou Kah. And Pa has just made the transition to USL coach. Player coaching role, leaving the first team side to come and help the USL guys, dip his toes in the water and learn to become a coach. It's his long-term goal when he finishes playing. It's something he loves. It's something he's wanted to do for a while. And now he's getting the chance to do it with WFC 2. Made his debut as player coach on Saturday. Started and played the vast majority of the game in the 0-0 draw in Sacramento. And you saw the influence that he had on the players in that match. He was speaking throughout. He was helping Sam DeWitt, his centre-back partner, Will Seymour, who's playing the DM role in front of him. And fingers crossed that Will, who picked up an injury in that game, gets himself healthy and it's not as bad as it looked, but we kind of fear the worst. But Will Seymour's been a great, understated player this year, and we hope he comes back strong. But Pa Modou Kah is great for the USL team. He's also been spending a lot of time with the academy. And it's those pros, those seasoned pros, 19, 20 years experience, like him, Robert Earnshaw, coming into these younger guys, it's going to help prepare them better for moving up to the first team and making the transition and coming through the ranks. And hopefully, we might not have seen it in the first 6 years, and it does feel like it's been a complete waste of money when you can't produce a first team player from the residency ranks. But I think the next couple of years, we are going to see these guys coming through. And Brett Levis is possibly going to be the first guy that does that. Alphonso Davies as well. Still have very high hopes for Marco Bustos and Ben McHenry doing it. And the help that they'll get from Alan Koch, from Pa Modou Kah, Robert Earnshaw and the residency, getting these guys ready is going to be massive. I had a chance to catch up with Pa at Whitecaps training on Tuesday, where he was helping out the team because they're obviously short in numbers this week. And we sat down and we had a good chat about him making that transition to the coaching ranks, what he's hoping for, why he's done it now, and just a lot more beside. So let's hear now from everyone's favourite Gambian, maybe outside of Kakutamani, maybe including Kakutamani, who can say? Here's Pa Modou Kah. So I want to talk to you about your new role. So obviously you're not retired, you're player coach. You've had your first official game now as player coach at Sacramento. What was behind your decision at this stage in your life now to make this move?
Well, first of all, I've always wanted to be in coaching, and Robo saw that in me, and he believed in me, and gave me the possibility to be it within this organization. And for me, that was that have always been one of my goals, and to be able to get that chance in almost ending of my career, it's a thing that I will take with both of my hands, and make sure that I succeed and have the same work ethic and same determination that I have playing. So for me, it's a dream come true.
I mean, we've seen it from you, the time that you've been here, but also at your other clubs as well. You're very vocal on the pitch. You do a lot of talking at training. You're always talking to the players. And we saw it in the game against Sacramento. There was a moment that was caught on camera that you might not know, that you put your arm around Will Seymour and you're talking to him and you're just pointing out what he should have done. You seem to get so much enjoyment about sharing that knowledge with the young guys.
No, for me it's important because the game of football have given me a lot. Beside the value that my parents have taught me as a young kid, and the value that comes along with football, and the experience that I had for the past 20 years, it's just unbelievable. And I think it's within my rights also, to share those values to the other players and help them, because as well as me, I've been in their position, so I know sometimes what they're going through in their mind. So for me, it's to offer that extended help and push them and drive them to be the best player they can be within a career, because that career can be short, can be long. So for me, I've always been like that, because it's always been my nature. So I've always enjoyed it, and for me, I've always been a guy who takes responsibility, whether it's good or bad.
How much coaching, like official coaching, have you done? Have you taken your courses yet? Have you started anything, or are you just at the very start of doing all this?
No, I'm now trying to get the B license. So, being in this game for 19 years, you pick along a lot of things, and be able to also work with Alan Koch is, he allowed me also to take part of the session, which is also good for my development. So I'm just happy with that.
When Robbo came here and when he got the job, he talked about how he had, in his mind, he had a 7-year coaching plan. He wanted to be like an assistant and then get into management, but things for him came along really quick. Have you kind of set in your mind like how you see this working out? Have you set yourself like 5 years of just learning the ropes, 10 years of learning the ropes before taking on
for me, I think it's very important, because just to jump in a manager job as soon as available can be your death, but can be a good thing as well. So it all depends on personality, and depends on what kind of person you are. And I am a guy who loves a challenge, and of course in my mind I'm just fresh off still playing. So what would be the best thing is like to be assistant on the Robo or on the Alan Koch for me, learn as much as I can gather, of the knowledge. And my dream is to be the first Gambian born coach to be able to be coaching outside Gambia. So that would mean a lot to me. So right now I'm just in my early learning stages, trying to get in as much as information I can get.
And from what you've seen of the USL team so far, there's a lot of like good, talented prospects there. At centre back, like Sam DeWitt, I'm a big fan of him. Although he started the season well, and then he's had a few lapses. But from what you've seen of the overall team, especially on the defensive side, do you like what you see from these guys?
I like what I see, because like you mentioned, you have guys like Caden Chong, Brett Levi, Sam right now, and you have people like Matthew Baldissimo and all these young kids that the club have fostered. You see that it's about, for them, it's about getting the experience playing at a higher level, because a lot of them now think, they played a couple of games that they can be ready to play at the first team level. They're not. So for them, I think the good thing is every day that you get the chance to play in the USL, develop yourself, every day get better, learn, because you only stop learning with football when you retire. But while you're in the game, you still have to learn and prepare yourself the best way and develop yourself, because they're going to be ups and downs, But for them, I think consistency is the most important thing that they need to put in their game.
And you played, obviously, in Sacramento on Saturday. Important game for the team. Crazy atmosphere that they have down there. How did you find that level compared to what you've been doing at MLS?
Well, like I say, of course, it's 2 levels below MLS, and with all due respect, the players at MLS are higher level, but you got some quality players there, I believe, because football is the same everywhere he's played. They have this Captain Barrera was a good player, and but I think if you look at the result and how many teams go there and don't get point, and we got there and got draw, but I do believe that we even had the chance to win the game if we were a little more detailed at the end. So for me, it's been a pleasure, getting to know yourself. But for those kids, I think it's a very good league for them to develop, especially the young players. It's a very good league to get games, play, learn to make mistakes, develop your game, and that's only how you can get developed, because some of them, if they believe that they're ready to play MLS, they might get maybe a game and then 6-7 games, nothing, and then, but to get games in the ULS at this stage, for any young kid, they should take it.
Your player coach just now, how long do you see you still having in your legs wise? Can you go another season or two, or are you wanting to more concentrate maybe at the end of this year just on the coaching side?
No, right now you see, I never rule anything, but listen, I've enjoyed 20 years of professional football, so for me it's always good to, you don't want to be ending your career on a bad note. But right now I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying helping the younger kids in the club, within the academy as well, helping them from the under 14s till the 18s and also USL, just to pass on my knowledge. And for me that's it now, taking these first 6 months, get to know how the club work, the clubs get to know how I work, and from there we see what's going to happen. But right now for me it's a day at a time. Right now I'm done with the first team training. I'm going to the aid rinks, with the younger guys. So for me at this point, and I love and I enjoy it, and I'm happy. I've been happy. So for me it's, like I say, it's a dream come true to be able to get this possibility. And so now it's up to me to prove to the club, as well as the club prove to me that they see something in me that I do believe that I have, which Robo have seen in me, which Alan Koch have seen in me, and all the other coaches. So it's just for me to keep continue developing.
That's great. That's an excellent way to end it. Good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Hope everything goes well. That's great. Thanks so much, Pa.
You're welcome, boss.
So new Whitecaps 2 player coach, Pa Modou Kah there. And it's great to have Pa involved with the USL guys and the residency guys. Very vocal. I was at residency training on Tuesday, and Pa was like refereeing the under-16 intra-squad game. If you head along to one of the Whitecaps 2 games, you're definitely going to hear him, whether he's on the pitch or on the bench. And just having that experience in the camp, having that kind of vocal presence, the desire and the enjoyment to share the knowledge that he's gained in the sport over the last 20 years can only benefit both teams greatly. So from a player that's left the Whitecaps first team mix to a player that's still very much in it. Striker Erik Hurtado. Now Erik got the start against LA on Saturday, coming on the back of a great performance against KC in the CCL on the Tuesday beforehand. justified reward, because that's what you want to do. You want to reward the players that have kind of shown that they deserve a chance. And he definitely did that against KC. So did Christian Teixeira, though, who got the 2 goals but did not get the reward and was left on the bench, which was rather strange, especially considering Hurtado has looked at his best playing alongside Teixeira. Maybe we'll see those pairing against New York on Saturday. We'll just have to wait and see. But it's been a tough year for Erik. Last August he flew out to Norway to go on loan, came back in the close season, joined Whitecaps pre-season, and a lot of people were surprised that he forced himself back into the first team reckoning, but he has worked hard. Kyle Robinson definitely seems to see something in him, and he's persevered with him. We do feel that he just needs to get a break. He just can't catch one this year, but he needs to start potting the goals away, just to show that season where he got those 5 goals was not a fluke. Can he do it? We are rooting for him, but we still have our doubts. But we caught up with Erik at Whitecaps training this week, just to talk about that last year, what he's learned from it, coming back to Vancouver, forcing himself back into the first team reckoning, and just how he manages to keep focus when he's just catching that bad luck that he's had just now. So let's hear now from Whitecaps striker Erik Hurtado. So basically a year's passed since you flew out and you've come back, and you've talked about it yourself, you've had a different attitude since you've come back. How do you see yourself having grown in that last year?
Just mentally grown. I think as a player you have to be able to adapt to situations, and that defines you. You're going to be put in different situations, and it's how you handle them.
For a young guy that's come out of college and you've only known really the domestic game, like lots of guys here, they want to go and play in Europe. When you go over and you see that, is it kind of a case that the grass maybe isn't always greener over there, and it opened your eyes a little bit as to what you have here?
Yeah, well, every player is different, and so when you go into a different locker room, a different team, people are going to react differently, and it just depends on the player, you know. And sometimes the grass isn't greener on the other side, but sometimes it's a good fit.
You gave a really honest kind of scrum a couple of weeks back where you were talking about you felt that you maybe didn't have the maturity, but you've come back and you've got that maturity. A lot of players wouldn't come out and just talk so openly about that. Did you feel it was important for you to kind of get that across?
Well, I just don't really have anything to hide. I feel like I'm an honest person, genuine person, so when you ask me something, I'm going to tell you straight up.
So, looking at like your season that you've had here, like Carol's given you a lot of opportunities. When you came back, did you think you were going to get as many opportunities, or were you a bit concerned that you might have fallen down the pecking order?
I didn't really think about that. It doesn't always go if you deserve it, you're going to get a chance. You're going to get a chance when you get your chance, and you just got to be ready for that. So I just wanted to prepare myself as best possible for when I got my chance, so then I could perform.
It's been a mixed year for you, but when you got that goal in the Champions League game last week, was it? It seems so long ago now, but like when you got that goal against KC, it just seemed to mean so much to you, just the relief. You just kind of sank to your knees. Was it like a weight off your back to get that goal now?
Yeah, in some way, you know, but I love scoring goals. That's nice to score a goal, and it felt good to do that.
It's also been a season, it's like you don't seem to be able to catch any breaks. You've had a good goal ruled off for handball, where it clearly wasn't handball. There was a really tight offside one that you put away. Weekend in LA, ball crashed off your bar. How do you not let that get to you? Is it tough?
I just try and move on, you know, and just prepare myself for the next chance. Get that out of my mind and just know that it's going to come again.
And you've the 2 CCL games, you linked up so well with Teixeira, and like the chemistry that you seem to have out there. Talk a little bit about that. Obviously, it's led to this whole Churchill Red or thing, or whatever it was. It's like, how have you found like playing with him? You seem to really enjoy what he does to you.
Yeah, I like playing with Christian. I like playing with a bunch of guys on the team. We're friends in the locker room. We're always joking around, so it makes it easier on the field. When we're on the same team, we try and link up with each other. We know what each other are good at, so it helps.
And when last year you didn't really play a lot of USL minutes, but you started the season in the USL team, and again, like you and Bustos had a really good understanding there, and you did so well there. Just how have you found like the minutes that you had there? What it's done to help develop your game?
It's just game experience, making runs off the ball, defenders on your back, and how much space you're going to have. You don't really get that in training, so just experience really has helped.
The team this season, it's been mixed. The goals were coming, they've dried up. But how have you seen the season play out so far?
Sometimes it hasn't gone our way. We're not really getting a break, but it's okay. That's how the game is, and this is what you want. You want to be able to grind out the last 7 games of the season and get results, because that really shows the character of a team and what kind of team you are. And honestly, I'm really excited to see our team step up to the task.
And just last thing, 7 games left. A lot of the games against the teams that's round about you, every weekend it seems to be mixed results, weird results. It's like teams you think are going to get the points don't, and I guess it's just MLS. But how do you see these 7 games playing out, especially these 4 crunch games against like Seattle, Portland, San Jose?
Right now we're focused on New York. I'm focused on New York. Got to get a result against New York, and then we can move on after that.
That's great. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks.
Good luck. Cheers, Erik.
Thank you.
So Erik Hurtado there. Now someone said to me this week that they thought I'd maybe been a little bit hard on Erik this season with my criticism and just the fact that I don't feel that he is an MLS starter. Now, looking at the stats, he's started 6 games this year, played in 17. He's had 17 shots in those 17 appearances, so averaging 1 a game. But only 5 of those shots are on target. And for a club that has goal-scoring woes like the Whitecaps do just now, you need better than that. It's like, he's a great guy, he's a great kid, you kind of root for him and you want him to do well. And I'd love nothing more for him to find his form, to find his feet, and for the breaks to go his way. He has been hell of an unlucky. As we mentioned in the interview there, put the ball in the back of the net and he was ruled off for handball where it clearly wasn't. Had the ball in the net for a very tight offside decision. Hit the bar in the game against LA at the weekend where, even Robbo said at a training on Tuesday that there was chances in that LA game where it was easier to miss than score, and you immediately think of Erik's chance that crashed off the bar. Erik Hurtado is the guy that Carl Robinson has to try and get something going in the offence, because Masato Kudo's not cutting it this year. He had a couple of flashes, but this jury's still out on him. I'm sorry, but I know he had the injury, but there's a lot of questions still about Kudo. He is better at home than he is on the road, and that, I guess, is going to be true of a number of players in their first year in MLS. Hurtado is in his 4th season now in MLS, and already this is his season with the second highest number of appearances, coming on the back of the 30 that he made in 2014. He did have 5 goals and 3 assists though during that season, and it was pointed out to me that if MLS was better at recording second assists, which I think are farcical anyway, but if they were, Hurtado would have a number of those. And he has played well in the CCL games, and he has played well linking up with Christian Teixeira. And you know what? The way the Whitecaps are playing just now, I think it's kind of worth a shot, just maybe going with that Teixeira-Hurtado partnership, trying to ride that out for the end of the season and just seeing what we can maybe get in MLS play out of it. One thing I will say in his defence is a lot of people don't appreciate the value that he offers the club for what he is on salary-wise. He is on a very low salary and you're getting a usable MLS player out of that. And I guess that's all you can hope for in some regards in a salary cap league, but you need more out of him. He needs to start getting the goals. I'm hoping that the CCL goal against KC is going to give him a spark, and we're going to see it against New York on Saturday, and he might be pot 1 or even 2 against the Red Bulls, because one thing's for sure, the Whitecaps definitely need it just now. Now, Hurtado sometimes isn't the best interviewee. I do get the impression from speaking to Erik that he doesn't trust the media very well, and he feels that they're going to hang him out to dry, and that's fair enough. But talking of guys that are not great interviewees, I think that kind of sums up very much Canadian national team coach Benito Floro. Always hate interviews with Floro. Conference calls, post-game scrums or press conferences. It's very hard, I find, to understand what he's saying. And I'm sure there's some folk listening to this podcast that's saying, "Pot kettle, we don't understand what you're saying half the time, Michael, either." But I'm not talking about his accent. It's just, when he's trying to make points, I find it very difficult to just get what kind of point Benito is trying to make. Now, of course, the Whitecaps are playing this Saturday on MLS duty, and it falls right in the middle of an international calendar. Whitecaps are missing 6 guys, absolutely ridiculous. But it should be pointed out that the Whitecaps did have the decision whether to play that game or not this weekend, and it was them that chose to make this game and play this game. So you can't moan about them being down 6 guys. They're the guys that's put themselves in that position to start with. But away from the club side and looking at the international side, it's a massive 4 days coming up for the Canadian national team. Honduras on Friday afternoon, El Salvador here in Vancouver on Tuesday night. Canada needs to get 4 points from those matches to qualify for the Hex for the first time in a generation. It would be a huge, huge boost to the game in this country, to the Canadian national team, to get in that final 6, to have a realistic shot. And once you're at the top 6, no matter who else is in there, it is a realistic shot that you have. But to have that shot at getting to the World Cup again, the first one since '86 in Mexico, massive for the programme in this country, massive for player development, interest in the game, everything. A lot of it hinges, of course, on what they can do in Honduras on Friday. Coming on the back of their last game there, which was that 8-1 defeat, it doesn't bode well, and you're hoping, maybe more with your heart than realistically, that Canada can get something from that game. They have to get at least a point, because basically if they lose that game, it's basically over. They're not going to be qualifying, barring some miraculous goal-scoring swing in the last games on Tuesday night. So Friday is basically make or break for the Canadian national team. For me, it's also make or break for Benito Floro continuing as Canadian national team coach. Now, Floro gave a conference call today, Wednesday, 2 days before the Honduras game. So I'm going to bring you an edited version of that now. He waffles on in some of the answers and you're not really sure what he's even said by the end of it. But we're going to bring it to you. It's about 10 minutes, just to give all you Canadian national team fans a little bit of a flavour, a little bit of a build-up for Friday's game. So let's hear now the thoughts of Benito Floro on that game in Honduras, some of the players that are in his squad, some that aren't, and what this game may mean for his future as the boss of the Canadian national team. Here's Benito Floro.
In a time when hats were hats, I had no Canadian flag, just a sign of Dave and Roger, too scared to purchase larger. When I walk through the Clyde Valley, and the shadow of fiery Jack, power, fear no evil, wrapped in the Canadian flag.
I guess the first question for Benito is, I guess right now everyone healthy in camp. Any concerns in terms of players' fitness ahead of Friday?
For now, all the players are in good condition, and we hope the same when the day of the game.
Benito, obviously in the past, trips to Central America have been filled with distractions. Is there a plan in place when you get there to sort of keep the team sort of away from, I guess, sort of the circus that can happen down there?
The plan for each game, because all the teams are different. Maybe 60% is equal or similar, but the other 40% means a special way to do attack or to do counter-attack or to defense, and it is necessary to accommodate our plan to the opponent action. No, the best way to get that the player are concentrating the game is explain to them perfectly what to do on the pitch, speaking tactically, not thinking in another matter, because the fans don't go to the pitch to play. So it is not important. So what matters is to understand perfectly how to attack, how to defend.
That 8-1 game that from 4 years ago, that still hangs over the team. How much does this whole history aspect play into this game coming up? And are just a clean sheet, and you just go in brand new, and nothing has happened before?
For all of us, it's crystal that the past is not for the present. There is a little extract from a game, but player and staff are thinking only in this game. So the situation is different. I'm not speaking about the pitch, about the hot, not about the mentality, because they are thinking only in how to do to develop a good pressing, to develop a good attack, counter-attack, and set pieces. So it's the best way, and they are focused on that, not thinking in the past.
Benito, here in Toronto, people still want to know why you haven't called up Will Johnson or Jonathan Osorio. Both have played a number of games, are in form. Can you tell us why you didn't select them both?
The other day, I answered the same. I don't know if it is not publicly the name of my answer. It's always the same. Also, he's a good player, a good person, but he knows perfectly from my opinion, because I told him directly that he needs to take advantage that he is playing 90 minutes each game to create more chance of goal, to score a goal, because he is going to play close to the box, and it is very important to do that. It is not only to run a lot, it is necessary to increase his tactical level, because if not, another player that can offer us the matter I am saying, no? Speaking about Will is an honest player that when he considers he's not in good condition, in perfect condition, physical condition, he made a decision to don't, at the OQ in World Cup and in the last camp, no? So he was injured, serious injury, and we consider that not time enough to have a good recovery, and we prefer don't call allowing will be a good recovery, no? Besides, we have a lot of players in this positioning, and it's good to divide the effort, no, and to allow Will to have a good recovery.
One more follow-up. Kyle Lauren, the youngster, has a lot of pressure on him, knowing that possibly he's going to have to put the ball in the net to help Canada get to the Hex. What have you said to this youngster, dealing with so many players over your coaching career, to calm him down before this big match?
Kyle Lauren is a young player, but the matter is that he is playing a lot of games with a good performance, no? Fighting a lot, running a lot, scoring goals, and sometimes it is necessary to rest a little, no? In fact, these 2-3 game trainings, they have stopped it similar as Ativa, because we need to recover his condition between games, no? But we consider that he's in good condition. He will be in good condition to play the games, and if not, there is enough player to substitute him. Larin is clever. He's not selfish. He considers that when coach is playing to him something, he must pay attention because he's in his favor, no? But we don't have any question or any doubt about Larin's performance, because he plays always with a good sense. Sometimes commit a mistake, but it is normal. But majority preparing the same as other players because they are always attending our requirement for playing well, no? So, no problem.
Benito, you and I were speaking the other day, and you mentioned that you expect a very physical game from this Honduras team. In the past, we've also seen this Honduras team, especially when they play at home, perhaps play in a certain way where they are attempting to win fouls or attempting to get the referee on their side. So what can you do to prepare your players for that and to try to get them in the right mental condition to be ready for those kind of tactics?
It is true that it's a special game because it's an official game. At the same time, it's very important for both teams to get the qualification. But summary is a game of soccer. Pitch, a ball, a referee, and a tactical plans. No? So the matter is to understand perfectly what to do. It is for that we are here to practice and to teach player, which is the way to do things, to have the necessary luck to win the game. But there is not another matter. It's very simple. Players must understand perfectly how to attack, thinking that Honduras is a strong team because he's going to develop a strong pressing. If it is possible, a lot of counter-attack. That was the way they win the last game 3 years ago, and we need to take advantage of this lesson to make the appropriate plan, tactical plan, in which our player will be very, very comfortable because they must understand that we are going to play against a dangerous team, but at the same time, Canada is a good team. Nothing to that about that.
I know that it's the summer for a lot of the players right now. They're playing in some hot conditions, but it's supposed to be oppressively hot when you play Friday in Honduras. I see the forecast is around 34 Celsius at game time. That's not counting the humidity. Is there ways to prep guys for those conditions when you go down there?
The only way to resolve this problem is to take advantage when the ball is stopped because a rule, no? Is the only way. Tactically, we need to do another kind of play because it is very important that the rhythm of play must be close to the physical rhythm, no? And it is necessary to join that. But we are practicing that. I can tell you that players are understanding perfectly because in the last camp in Austria, we practice this kind of this method to reserve energy or to take advantage of this moment in which the ball is stopped to recover the energy, no?
Benito, the players feel a lot of pressure, the responsibility of this game. Do you feel the pressure knowing that this is the most important game in your tenure?
I always have my opinion is always the same. One thing is a positive press, and another thing is a negative press. I never have a negative press in myself because I consider I am a leader. And the leader must be always tranquil, calm, to explain or to transmit the player the same feeling. So I don't like a player with a lot of press, psychological press in their mind. I always want a player happy with a good desire to play against any team and in any condition. So you are speaking about my future. I never think in my future. I always live the present because I am a coach. A coach coaches are always thinking in the present, never in the future and in the past.
And I wear it for my lady, the Canadian flag, baby!
So Benito, Floro there, hopefully you managed to get some things out of that. As I said, very, very difficult to kind of gauge really what he's saying, but the general gist is they know it's a tough game coming up in Honduras. They know it's going to be really bad conditions with the heat and the humidity. They want to try and take advantage of when the games maybe stopped, when the games slowed down a little bit. So I think you can read into that. It's going to be a kind of bunkering, not much attacking shown, lots of counter-attack play, hopefully. One guy up front, and it's going to be a challenge. Can they do it? Fingers crossed. We'd love nothing more than Tuesday's game here in Vancouver to mean something, to get a packed BC place, to cheer Canada onto the Hex. Ticket sales, we believe just now, are not fantastic, and if they don't get the result against Honduras, they're not really going to improve that drastically. But we need to support the national team. We need to get the guys roared home. Hopefully they can do the business on the pitch in Honduras. Then Tuesday night could be a right party at BC Place, and you don't want to miss that. So that's it for this episode of the podcast. Hope you've enjoyed it. I like doing these kind of interview heavy ones just to kind of mix it up a little bit, but we'll be back soon with Steve and some of the other gang just to chat about the Whitecaps. But fantastically busy footballing long weekend coming up. Canada on Friday, Canada on Tuesday. Whitecaps in MLS action on Saturday. Whitecaps in a crucial USL match in Langley on Monday afternoon as well. Get out to that if you can. So until next time, as always, thanks for listening. If you've any feedback on the podcast or on anything that you've heard here, leave it in the comments section on AFTN, aftn.ca, or shoot us an email, aftncanada@hotmail.com. I'm Michael McCall. You can find me on Twitter at AFTNCanada. Read all our stuff away from the numbers, aftn.ca. I'm also the Whitecaps beat reporter for MLSsoccer.com and Goal.com, and the Western Conference reporter for USLsoccer.com, so check out my stuff on that as well. So until next time, thanks for listening, take care, and mon the Caps in Canada.
Going to your first match is an experience you never forget. The atmosphere of what's going on around the pitch looks beautiful, and you always look and go, wow, I'd love to play here one day. If you get the bug, it's going to stay with you for life.
10 minutes left, yeah, but